2017 ESE paper had one question from the topic biodiversity. The question is, besides species diversity and ecosystem diversity, which of the following is included in the term biodiversity? We saw this in our discussion. What are the three levels of diversity? It is species diversity, genetic diversity, and ecosystem diversity. So what is not included in the question? It is genetic diversity, right? Genetic diversity is given as option A. Let us see another question. This question was asked in ESE exam 2017. The question reads like this. Two statements are given. You have to choose the code. Code A4, both the statement 1 and statement 2 are individually true, and statement 2 is the correct explanation of statement 1. B, both statement 1 and statement 2 are individually true, but statement 2 is not the correct explanation of statement 1. C, statement 1 is true, but statement 2 is false. D, statement 1 is false, but statement 2 is true. What is statement 1? Statement 1 reads like this. Environment considerations are not necessarily the same as nor congruent with ecological considerations. Statement 2 reads like this. Environment consideration address more towards maintaining, whereas ecological consideration address more towards sustaining. Let us see what does this statement first means. Statement first says that environment consideration are not necessarily same nor congruent like ecosystem considerations. We saw there is difference between the terms environment and ecosystem, so it cannot be same. What is congruent? Congruent means overlapping. Like if you are doing something with the environmental consideration, will it be same and like overlapping with what we are doing for the ecosystem consideration? Let us see. What does this ecosystem mean? Ecosystem means it has a interactions within itself, right? And the property of the ecosystem is it is sustainable. There exists a balance, there exists evolution, there exists cycling, recycling. So the system is a sustainable system. These two terms asked in the question comes with the management. How we are managing the environment and the ecosystem. When we are managing the ecosystem, we should consider the sustainable factor also, right? Apart from simply preserving the system, we have to make sure that it is sustainable. What does sustainable means? It should be resilient and the resources should not be depleted. The system should be available for the coming generations also. So in the management, when we are taking environment management and ecosystem management, there is the basic difference. Environment management will be mainly looking towards the preservation. Preservation like national parks or wildlife sanctuaries, we try to preserve the wildlife. But in ecosystem, we try to sustain it. So we can see that it is also not overlapping. These two functions are not overlapping. One may be a subset of the other, but it is not properly overlapping. So what does the second statement tell? Second statement tells that environment consideration are more towards maintaining and ecosystem consideration are more towards sustaining. So the statement 2 correctly explains the statement 1. So the answer could be option A. Option A is the answer. Which industrial waste is commonly used in construction industry? This is a very simple question in ESE 2017. And this was the first paper including the general studies topic. So this is a very easy answer. fly ash, slag, sludge, red oxide. So construction purposes we will use fly ash, right? We have discussed the different properties of fly ash, which will make it a ready suitable substitute for Portland cement in certain construction activities, also in manufacturing of bricks, landfills, etc. So the answer is A, fly ash. Next question is also from ESE 2017. Consider the following statements concerning environment pollution. First statement, nuclear explosions cause radioactive radiation. Earthquakes do not cause tsunamis. Acid rain is not a major environmental issue. Air pollution has some impact on meteorology. Which of both the statements are correct? From the above, two statements are correct. So we have to find 2 out of the 4 statements. First statement tells that nuclear explosions cause radioactive radiation, right? Radioactive pollution, one of the sources is the nuclear explosion and nuclear plants. So nuclear explosion uses the property of the radioactive decay to disintegrate the nucleus, right? So that different particles like alpha particles, beta particles and gamma radiations will be emitted when the nucleus is destroyed, and energy will also be released, which will be used in the explosions. The first statement is correct. So we have 2 options with the option 1 or A 1 and 2 and D 1 and 4. So one of these could be the answer. What about the second statement? Tell that earthquakes do not cause tsunamis. What is tsunami? Tsunami is the wave formed in the ocean because of the large displacement of water column. So when this large displacement can happen, when something of higher magnitude happens here, like earthquakes, water will rush inside that spot, or there should be some upwarping so that water will displaced, or there is downwarping of the ocean floor, again water will gush down immediately. This will create a disturbance in the water levels, and when this disturbance reaches the coast, it will attain height and occur a tsunami. Tsunamis are otherwise called as harbor waves. So earthquake can be a reason behind the formation of tsunami. That makes the option 2 wrong. So we are left with the option D. It is 1 and 4 is the answer. Even though you are not aware of the third and fourth statement, we can go with the option D. Now let us check what is third statement. Third statement says acid rain is not a major environmental issue. You know that acid rain is an environmental issue which can have different health and environmental effects and damage to the structures and materials. So the statement is wrong. What about fourth statement? Air pollution has some impact on meteorology. So it means it has some impact on climate and weather system. We saw that air pollution, one of the type of air pollution is the particulate matter pollution, which include aerosols also, which can have different meteorological effects like reflection of the radiations. So these particles will reflect the radiation before it reaching the earth's surface, or otherwise some particles can absorb the radiations like brown carbons. So this will increase the temperature, right? This will reduce the temperature, and this particle form hygroscopic nuclei, so that water will condense around it and aid the cloud formation. So there are different impact of the particles in the weather and climate system. So this statement is correct, and the option is D 1 and 4. So next question is also from ESE 2017. Consider the following statements regarding smog. Smog was coined during 1950s to describe the mixture of smoke and fog experienced in London. Second, principal pollutants in London smog are particulates and sulfur compounds. Third, London smog occurs generally early in the morning on cold, wet winter days. Which of the above statements are correct? We saw about smog. How the word originated. The word originated from the combination of words smoke and fog. Smoke is the result of the industrial pollution which contains sulfur and nitrogen compounds. Fog is due to humidity. It is condensation of water near the earth's surface. So the first statement is correct because first time the harmful effects of the smog was noticed during the London smog, which happened in 1952. So it killed thousands of people in the city, London city. So then this issue attracted the global attention. So the first statement is correct. Smoke is coined during 1950s to describe the mixture of smoke and fog in London. And the principal pollutants were particulate matter and sulfur compounds. Sulfur compounds were released from the industries which were using coal as the fuel, and particulate matter includes the dust and other suspended particles in the air which will lead to the formation of fog. So the statement 2 also correct. Third, London smog occurs generally early in the morning on cold, wet winter days. Smog needs wet condition, and the temperature should be low so as to create a fog. And this phenomena is common in the temperate regions where the temperature is lower and also in humid conditions during the winter days. So this statement also correct. The answer is A, 1, 2 and 3. ESE 2017 had questions from water pollution, especially the water treatment. Let us see. The question is, consider the following statements regarding activated sludge process. Industries prefer activated sludge process as it requires less space, does not produce obnoxious odors, and requires less time for wastewater treatment compared to trickling filter. Second, it requires skilled supervision. Third, biological treatment is enhanced because shock loadings are eliminated. Which of the above statements are correct? So here the question is about the activated sludge process, otherwise commonly known as ASP. In activated sludge process, the sludge is the sedimented waste we get from the primary treatment, and this sludge is aerated. It is given more supply of oxygen and microbes so as to enhance the natural decomposition. So in this process, all the substance which can be oxidized will be decomposed, and this process has different advantages. So it is the most commonly used method for the secondary treatment of water. Secondary treatment of water or biological treatment of water. And in our lectures we have discussed different treatment methods and we have compared. We are arriving at this treatment considering its land requirement, efficiency, the time it is taken and the quality of the output, etc. So the property of the ASP makes it industries prefer this process as it requires lesser space and it won't produce odors and it requires less time compared to trickling filter. The trickling filter is a method which takes long time. It is a slow process, trickling filter. Compared to trickling filter, activated sludge process is relatively fast process because we are activating the sludge by aerating it. So the statement 1 is correct. What about the second statement? It requires skilled supervision. This statement is also correct. That makes the operating cost is higher for this process because it requires skilled supervision and costly maintenance. And third tells that biological treatment is enhanced because shock loadings are eliminated. Shock loadings means it has to some relation with the flow of the water to be treatment. The flow is continuous, there won't be any shock loads on the equipments we are using, right? So this activated sludge process has an advantage, right? It will be having smooth flow. So there won't be any shock loadings. The flow of water will be smooth, whether it is which is coming to the system or going out of the system. And this process makes it little difficult to adjust to the different volumes of the sewage also. It has so this statement is wrong, right? Not because of the shock loading that biological treatment is enhanced. It is because of the aeration that biological treatment is enhanced. Because of no shock loading, the flow is smooth in this process. So it makes option 1 and 2 are correct. 1 and 2 are correct. It is option A. The next question is regarding the tertiary treatment itself from the same paper. The question is, consider the following tertiary treatment methods for treatment of wastewater: ion exchange method, reverse osmosis, chemical oxidation method, activated sludge process. Which of the above methods are correct? So what is tertiary treatment? Tertiary treatment is mainly disinfection. That is, after secondary treatment, the water is treated water, but it contains pathogens. Pathogens are disease causing microorganisms. So this has to be removed in the secondary treatment. So there are different methods, chemical or using radiations or reverse osmosis to remove the pathogens from the water. So what are the ways you are using? First one is reverse osmosis. So it comes at the second option. Reverse osmosis is correct. Third, chemical oxidation. We will use substance like chlorine etc. to remove the pathogens. So the third is correct. Fourth is activated sludge process. We saw activated sludge process is the secondary treatment. It is biological treatment to oxidize the oxygen consuming organic or inorganic materials, remove the hardness of the water, like that. Secondary treatment we use activated sludge process, which is a biological treatment. But about the first option, it is ion exchange method. In ion exchange method, the contaminant ions are exchanged for undesired ions. Imagine if there are different ions in the water, like calcium ions, which cause hardness. So in this ion exchange methods, this undesired ions will be exchanged for the less harmful ions. So this process can also be used in the tertiary treatment. It makes the option 1, 2, 3 as correct, which is option D. Option D, 1, 2, 3 are correct, except the activated sludge process, which is used in secondary treatment. All of this can be used for tertiary treatment of water. Next question. The reasons for low rate of plastic recycling are: first, scrap plastic has little value because virgin material is rather cheap. Second, low density of plastic leads to high shipping and handling cost. Third, recycling leads to a very severe public health hazard. Which of the above reasons are correct? This question is from last year engineering service exam. So it asks about the recycling of the plastic waste. We know that majority of the plastic waste will end up in landfills. Almost half of the plastic waste will end up in landfills without recycling or reusing it. What could be the reason? First, it tells that scrap plastic has little value because virgin material is rather cheap. Yeah, this is This is the reason plastic is cheaper to manufacture. So it is an easy substitute for many other costly materials and other manufacturing processes. The quantity that it is cheap make it a widely used materials. Also, people don't bother about to recycle the plastic and use because we can buy new plastic in that cost. So this could be the reason. Second, low density of plastic leads to high shipping and handling cost. We are not recycling the plastic waste. It is very difficult to transport it. Transportation is bulk. It is produced in bulk, right? It is low density, so we need more space to transfer it. Whereas in e-waste we saw that it is easily transported to the developing countries where it can be recycled in a cheaper manner. Like that, nobody bothers to transport plastic to the developing countries to recycle because handling cost itself is very high. So this could be the reason. Third, recycling leads to very severe public health hazard. This is not correct. Recycling, we can avoid the use of more plastic, and also we can avoid the use of burning the plastic and releasing poisonous gases. So the answer here is 1 and 2. It is option B. Which of the following statements is correct? So only one statement is correct from the below. A. The end product of fossil fuels is in the form of electrical energy. B. Watershed protection increase the rate of surface runoff of water. C. If timber is over-harvested, the ecological functions of the forests are improved. D. Rivers change their course during floods and loads of fertile soils are lost to the sea. Here the first option tells that the fossil fuels will end up in the form of electrical energy. What is the use of fossil fuels? It will be used for direct production of heat or to produce electricity. So electricity can be easily converted to other forms of energy. So it is very easy to convert to electricity and use further. Heat energy, it will be directly used for the heating purposes, or in industries like metallurgical industries for melting of the metals. Coal will be combusted to produce heat. So here fossil fuels can end up in the form of electrical energy, but not all the fossil fuels. Some will end up as direct heat energy also. So this statement cannot be correct because it is a generalization. So in UPSC exams you have to be especially careful about the generalized statements because same generalization won't be correct in most of the cases. So such statements you can keep in mind, they may not be correct. B. Watershed protection increase the rate of surface runoff of water. What is watershed protection? Watershed protection means the protection of the area where the river is getting its water content, that is the catchment area. So the region demarcating the catchment region between two drainage systems. Here from this portion, from this boundary, here will be another drainage, river B. Here will be another drainage, river AC. So this boundary demarcates the watershed area. So the watershed protection means mainly it is afforestation of such areas, that is planting of trees in this region or production of vegetation in these regions will help in lesser runoff. So this statement is wrong. Watershed protection is to decrease the surface runoff of water. C. Timber is over-harvested, ecological functions of the forest are improved. This is very clear. When timber is over-harvested, ecological functions of the forest will be decreased. And D. Rivers change their course during floods and load of fertile soils are lost to the sea. So during floods, rivers will carry lot of sediments, and sometimes the load will be very high that the sediments will be just deposited on the river course, so that the river can't flow in its normal course, and the river will take diversion. Here the sediments will be deposited and it will divert. When it is diverting, mainly it will be agricultural fields or the populated regions, fertile regions, and here it will cause surface runoff, and this topsoil will go with the rivers to the sea and it will end up in the oceans. And sometimes when the rivers are changing the course, it will deposit sediments here, right? And this region will be fertile. So this region can have good prospectus agricultural region, but the problem of river shifting and flooding will always be there in such regions. So here we can go with the option D. Option D is correct in among the 4 options. It is answer is option D. Consider the following statements regarding ozone. First, it is continuously being produced and destroyed. Second, it helps to sustain life on earth. Third, it is formed in the atmosphere through photochemical reaction. Which of the above statements are correct? So the first statement tells that it is continuously produced and destroyed. Second is that it is essential for life on earth. And third tells that it is formed due to photochemical reaction. So we saw in our discussion that ozone production and destruction is a continuous process and it happens through a cycle called Chapman cycle. It means that it is a reversible process. So the first statement is correct. And second, why we need ozone layer? Because it will protect us from the harmful ultraviolet radiations from the sun. It means that it is essential for sustaining life on earth. So second statement is also correct. And what is a photochemical reaction? Photochemical reaction is that happening in the presence of light. So here ultraviolet rays are essential for producing ozone. When it acts on oxygen molecules, these ultraviolet rays create oxygen radicals and these oxygen radicals will again react to form the ozone molecule. So it is a photochemical reaction. Means that 3 statements are correct and the option is D. 1, 2, 3 are correct. This is assertion and reasoning type of question. Assertion says that global warming is the cause for climate change. Reason tells that ozone depletion will cause global warming. So we have to see both statements separately, whether it is true or false and whether the reasoning statement justifies the assertion statement. Here let us check the statements one by one. Global warming is the cause for climate change. What is global warming? Global warming is the general increase in the temperature of atmosphere. So here the atmospheric temperature is the ground level temperature, that is normally around 14 to 15 degrees Celsius. So it includes sea surface temperature and land surface temperature average. So general we are observing an trend in increasing the ground level temperature from this 14 to 15 degrees Celsius. And this increasing in temperature will affect the climate and weather systems and can drive climate changes. Climate changes are the long-term effects that happens to the weather systems. So this statement is correct. When temperature is a major factor in the climate and weather system, whenever the temperature levels are increases, it can be a potential cause for climate change. And the recent climate change we are experiencing is invariably due to the global warming caused by the greenhouse gases emission, which will trap the solar energy, solar radiation coming to the earth's surface and prevent it from escaping and warm up the atmosphere. So what about second statement? Ozone depletion will cause global warming. So we have discussed in our lectures that ozone depletion will cause the ultraviolet radiation to enter the troposphere, right? So otherwise in stratosphere itself this ultraviolet radiation will get consumed and convert to heat energy in the stratosphere. So whenever the temperature of the troposphere is changing, it will affect the climatic systems, because climate and weather is a phenomenon occurring in the troposphere, not in the other layers of the atmosphere. Here the ozone depletion will cause more penetration of ultraviolet rays, and these ultraviolet radiations have several impacts on the other gases in the atmosphere, including methane and other trace gases. These ultraviolet radiations can increase their lifetime, and they can release the gases from their reservoirs. So these activities can add to the global warming. So lifetime of the gas also determines how much heat it can trap in the atmosphere. So this can cause global warming. Even if the ultraviolet radiations are not directly causing global warming, its indirect effects will accelerate the process of global warming. So this statement also correct. But this statement is not the explanation of how the global warming is caused for climate change, right? So here option A is not correct because R does not explain A, but option B is correct because both statements are individually true, but R does not explain the assertion. So the answer is B. The chapter of ozone hole, depletion and protection, we have discussed what is ozone, what are its properties, how it is formed in the stratosphere, and the natural cycle which is happening there, and how the ozone layer is getting depleted when the natural process, which is reversible process, will get imbalanced and the depletion will cause, and how it is causing, what are the chemicals which is causing ozone depletion, what are the natural and anthropogenic reasons, and what are the effects of ozone depletion on the climatic systems, environment and other living organisms on the earth surface. Then we have discussed in detail about the ozone depleting substance, especially the chlorofluorocarbons and other halogenated substances, sulfuric acid, nitrous oxides, like that we have discussed. And what is meant by ozone hole, how it is formed, how it is measured. Ozone hole is formed above the polar regions, like that things we have discussed. And next we went to the protection of ozone layer, how we can patch up the hole. What are the national and international efforts? International, mainly the Vienna Convention and the Montreal Protocol we have discussed, and how it addressed the issue of ozone depletion and how we were successful in preventing the further depletion of the ozone and regeneration of the ozone layer through these international efforts, and supported by the national effort by the individual countries. And we have discussed in case of India how we have achieved and what are the programs going on. And substitutes for ozone depleting substance is an important topic because ozone depleting substance is the major cause of the ozone depletion at present. So we have discussed different substitutes available and what are the potential substitutes also. Then we have discussed the previous year questions on this topic, and we saw that we are getting questions from this topic, especially into the different aspects of the ozone layer. If it can be formation, it can be depletion, it can be ozone depleting substances, it can be about the ozone hole, it can be about the protection, it can be about the substitutes of ODS. So all aspects of the ozone layer depletion and protection has been covered in the UPSC exams. So we can expect more questions from this topic in the coming exams also. And this topic will come under the larger category of the environmental degradation and pollution, but we have discussed it separately because we have to discuss all these aspects in detail.
Related to global warming, this is assertion and reasoning type of question. Statement first: increased cloud cover will lead to warmer winters due to clouds reflecting more intense solar energy. Statement second: overcast cloud conditions result in decrease in day-night temperature difference. So these two statements related with atmospheric phenomena. Statement first is that increased cloud cover. So what is the effect of increased cloud cover? What is its effect in the radiation? The increased cloud cover will add to the global greenhouse effect. That is, it won't allow the terrestrial radiations from escaping to the atmosphere. Thus, they will increase the tropospheric temperature. So here first statements tell that increased cover curve will lead to warmer winters due to clouds reflecting more intense solar energy. No, it is not because of that cloud is reflecting solar energy. It is not the case. It is because the cloud will be having a greenhouse effect, that it will absorb the terrestrial radiation and increase the temperature. So the first statement is wrong. Second statement. Overcast cloud conditions result in decrease in day-night temperature difference. What is meant by decrease in day-night temperature difference? So normally during daytime temperature will be on higher side and nighttime temperature will be on lower side. The difference between this higher and lower temperature will add to the day-night temperature difference. It means that when day is less cooler and night is warmer, the temperature difference will be less, right? So what happens during overcast condition? Overcast condition means when there is cloud cover, there will be global warming, so there will be more warming, and night will be more warmer. Night more warmer means temperature difference will be less. So here it tells that overcast cloud conditions result in decrease in day-night temperature difference. Right, so this statement is correct. It will result in decrease in the temperature difference. It's because of the more warming during the night times. So the first statement is wrong, but the second statement is correct. So the option is D. The Rotterdam Convention deals with A. Reducing nuclear weapon stockpiles, B. Limiting the use of toxic chemicals, C. Protecting oceans, D. Banning of human clone experiment. So this is an easy question. So it is about the Rotterdam Convention. So we have seen the list of global conventions which is dealing with the protection of biodiversity, different ecosystems, wildlife, etc. and pollution control in conventions also. So the Rotterdam is in pollution control. If you remember this point itself, you can answer this, because first one is about nuclear weapon, second is about limiting the use of toxic chemicals, C is about protecting oceans, D is about banning human clone experiment. So B and C are about, maybe we can tell about C also about pollution, but B and C, among B it is limiting use of toxic chemicals. So regarding toxic chemicals, we have different conventions. Basel Convention is about a transboundary movement of chemicals. Rotterdam Convention is about prior informed consent in use of certain chemicals, and the Stockholm Convention is about persistent organic pollutants, and Minamata Convention is about mercury. So we have to differentiate between these conventions and the chemicals they are dealing with. The answer is B. Next question. If a wetland of international importance is brought under the Montreux record, what does it imply? A. Changes in ecological character have occurred, are occurring, or are likely to occur in the wetland as a result of human interference. B. The country in which the wetland is located should enact a law to protect any human activity within 5 kilometers from the edge of the wetland. C. Survival of the wetland depends on the cultural practices and tradition of certain communities living in its vicinity, and therefore the cultural diversity therein should not be destroyed. It is given the status of World Heritage Site. So this is about the Montreux record, which is a part of Ramsar Convention. So if you remember this link,
You can answer this question. Ramsar Convention is about the wetlands, right? So Ramsar Convention lists a group of wetlands that are of international importance, and Montreal's record is that record among the Ramsar sites which is facing degradation, right? So the option A, changes in ecological character have occurred, are occurring, or likely to occur. That is meant threat already happened, threat is happening, or there is likelihood of threat happening to the ecosystem as a result of human interference. That is option A. Option A is the answer. So we have seen in our discussion about Ramsar sites in India, and we have seen the wetlands in the Montrose record also. Now we have two wetlands in Montrose record. They are the Loktak Lake and Kalaudia National Park, which means that human intervention is causing threatening, that is degradation of the wetlands. So we have to take care for its conservation and restoration. So other things are not dealing with this Montrose record. The country in which wetland is located should enact a law to prohibit any human activity. Like that, restrictions are not there. C, wetland, the cultural diversity and wetland also not linked, and World Heritage Site and this wetland conservation also not linked. So the option is A. Third question. With reference to Global Environment Facility, which of the following statement is or are correct? A. It serves as financial mechanism for Convention on Biological Diversity and United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. B. It undertakes scientific research on environmental issues at global level. C. It is an agency under OECD to facilitate the transfer of technology and funds to underdeveloped countries with specific aim to protect their environment. D. Both A and B. So the question is about one particular organization, that is GEF, Global Environmental Facility. In our discussions we saw that it is a financial mechanism which is supporting different international conventions, including United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and also the Convention on Biological Diversity and many other conventions also. So the option A is correct. What about option B? It undertakes scientific research on environmental issues at global level. No, it is not a research organization. It is just a mechanism to support different environmental activities. C. It is an agency under OECD. No, it is not under any organization. It is an autonomous body. So C also wrong. So D also automatically it becomes wrong because B is wrong. So here answer is A.